Move that we approve the agenda for the work session.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda for the work session. Please call the roll.
Fisher.
Here.
Is it okay if we approve the agenda? Say yes?
Yes.
Thanks. Denhart.
Yes.
Wilson. Carver.
Yes. Okay. Start with flexibility account. This was moving money.
And we want to talk about the possibility of moving some money between funds. We did this
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Mhm.
So would like to move funds out of homeschool account into Title I reading, and then funds into pre-K account as well. In order to do that, we do have to have a set a public hearing for the next board meeting, and then can move it after that, as long as there's no objection to that. But, just want to talk about that a little bit and see if anybody has any
So we have
questions.
to move it from the one fund to two different funds.
Yeah, move it to two different
And
funds.
that has to be defined
Correct.
according to state requirements. And that's what you've got presented here. I'm not sure I quite understand what the fund audit report would be. That's another issue.
That's explaining it. That's just showing you how much carryover.
How much carryover?
The carryover at the end of the prior year was over $80,000.
Right.
But this year's allocation, we pretty much used up, not quite. We received 42.6 and spent 40,553. So it's more about the old carryover that I'd like to be able to move.
And then you're going to move the additional 2,000.
No, actually, Tim and I discussed it, and we don't want to use it all. Maybe if we just moved 75,000 to the flexibility to be used elsewhere.
So if it didn't get moved, it's there for future needs.
Our future homeschool assistance needs, yeah.
That's what we're limited. Unless we move it, we can't spend it on anything else.
Right.
And you can see by,
What number is that?
it would have been, if you go back to the, the next page,
Yeah.
That's page 1 that talks
Well,
about
I think so.
flexibility, and then page 2 is that. Okay, so if you look at that fund audit report, it shows you how much is salary, how much is FICA diapers, how much goes out to open enrollment. That's the biggest amount that's spent. And that's kids that are open enrolled out to Boone's Homeschool Assistance Program. So they bill us for that. And this year, Marla Orfield did retire and we hired someone new. And so we're encouraging her to get whatever curriculum she needs to build her program up. And
So this is what the homeschool
money was spent on last
money
year.
was spent on last year.
Right.
Not necessarily what next year's budget is.
Right. Right. But it'll look somewhat
It'll look
similar.
similar to that.
Mhm. That's right. But
And we typically have an allocation that's going to match what we're spending. So we have that extra money back there that we're not using. And we need to
Homeschool assistance, now we get 0.3 per student. Originally, it was 0.6.
when we say that, we mean like, each student from the state, you get like $7,000 for them. Because most students are 1.0
Right.
students, but homeschool assistants are
So
0.3.
we get credit for that.
Yeah.
But only if they register with us. For
Right, and use our
For homeschool
program.
assistance
For
program.
the homeschool assistance program. So there are several out there that homeschool that we provide no funding for.
Right, and no
Because they're dependent
services.
on their own.
And no services.
And we don't get any funds for them, and no, we don't provide any services.
The only time we would get funds for them is if they were dual enrolled, and then you get a 0.1.
Are we seeing an increase in homeschooling because of COVID from last year to this year because we're not providing?
I would say yes. Yeah. We've had more students that
And are they asking for assistance or are they?
homeschool assistance.
We have tried to steer them toward that whenever they call because we're not offering remote learning.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the other thing is if we can get them to homeschool assist, at least we have a handle on who's out there,
right,
where the needs are.
Yep.
If they don't
Absolutely.
ask, we don't even know who's out there.
But yes, we have had an increase.
Okay. I think that answers questions.
Was that something that everybody be willing to do. In a regular meeting, we would have, again, set public hearing for the October meeting. In order to do that.
So I have a motion to set public meeting for this.
We can't do it in a
Yeah.
work
It
session.
would
Oh,
be-
the work
it'd be during the regular
So in
meeting.
the next.
In the regular meeting, we'll do
right.
Yep.
Okay,
I just wanted to have information to explain it to you ahead of time.
Question if I might. So if I'm following along mathematically, proposing to move 75,000 of the 80,000 to Title I and pre-K account from homeschool, thus leaving 5,000 in that homeschool account, plus the leftover 2,600 from the previous years for a grand total of about 7,600
Plus
in
we'll get
homeschool.
a new allocation.
Right,
Yeah,
right, but that's what
yes,
you're proposing to do
correct,
with the.
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got the numbers all right.
Right.
So, thank you.
okay. Staffing subs,
Just want to have a general conversation about staffing and subs, and none of this conversation to me is a good conversation as you look at what's going on in the world today in terms of what people want to be paid, what minimum wage is, what funding we're getting from the state and all that. One thing that we would like to propose, and again, this is in the regular meeting, but we wanted to have a conversation about it. Getting substitute teachers is a challenge right now. We pay $120 a day for substitutes, and would like to look at during the regular meeting increasing that to $135 a day. Yeah, that's not a huge increase, but
do you know where we sit with surrounding districts as far as what?
I think 120 is probably about the going rate around from what somebody said Ogden. We had a teacher in the other day, or a substitute teacher that said that's what Ogden is paying, so.
Do you have any idea, Brad? Have you checked at other schools?
I can't verify for sure. I heard maybe Panora's paying a little more, but I can't verify.
Yeah, that isn't something I guess we should have.
The other thing that trying to do right now, and would encourage everybody to contact Phil Thompson or Jesse Greene. Last year, they opened up substitute teaching, the flexibility to that tremendously. The one in particular,
Yes.
an associate in a special ed classroom, prior to last year could only substitute in that special ed classroom, but last year they opened it up where they could substitute in any classroom. But this year they went back where an associate can only substitute in the special ed classroom, but they're actually in.
And that's an associate that has a sub authorization.
Correct, as a sub authorization. So like I said, I've been in contact with Phil Thompson and Jesse Greene and the governor's office to see whether they can change that flexibility back again. I don't know whether they will or not, but if anybody could contact them, that would be great too.
So an associate in special ed can act as the teacher or
Right now, the only thing they can do, if you happen to be an associate in a particular special ed classroom, if that teacher was gone and you had your authorization, you could be a sub in that classroom. But last year they opened it up. You could be a substitute in any classroom.
including non-special ed.
Correct.
So it could
Yep.
have been
Yep.
fourth grade.
Correct. Yeah. Anything.
But otherwise, an associate, I mean, we can't call an associate to sub when even if they're not in a classroom. So, correct, a substitute associate could never really fill in for a classroom
No.
teacher. Has to be a substitute teacher. Correct.
Last year, it was
Worse.
opened up bigger so that if they had their authorization, they could go anywhere. And now it's more confined to where they're at on a normal day. I've had some teachers contact me about it. So I did actually just last night contact Phil, and he said he's working on it. So he reassured me that they're trying to make that happen.
But that's one thing we'd like to do. I don't know whether there are any questions or comments.
I think that was one of the things that the school board convention, ASB convention last year was trying to open up some pathways for additional subs. So you could not necessarily have an education degree, but you might be
They have,
somebody in industry who has training and has a degree, and you could get your approval to be a substitute a little easier. I don't know whether that's.
they've opened up substitutes significantly. Now you can have a an AA degree from community college or 60 hours towards your AA degree, and you can take the sub-authorization and get that. And there is a Prairie Lakes AEA has a class that starts.
Sweet answer.
Somebody's calling Steve. Steve calling her.
Prairie Lakes AEA has a class that's starting the 27th of September. If anybody is interested, it's all online. Someone would like to get their substitute authorization.
I think last year too, Ivers lifted the wage limit, didn't it, for retiring teachers?
They increased it
Like they,
up to like $14,000.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
and now it's back to 6 again.
Back to 6,000. Yes.
So to take that AEA class, what do you have to have already? Do you have to have a bachelor's to?
That's one thing.
If you have a bachelor's, you can do it. If you have your AA, if you have your associate's degree, or if you have 60 hours towards an associate's degree, you can also take it.
Or probably towards your bachelor's too. I would
Correct.
think.
I think, yeah.
And that's a permanent law change, correct? That's not a temporary thing the legislature has put in place this year.
The permanent law change that they put in place was yes, that part of it. And they also put in place, they raised from before you can only sub 5 days in the same classroom if you had an authorization. Now you can sub 10 days.
It used to be 5 days in a row, 10 days in a month,
It's in for one,
in one classroom,
class,
in
yeah.
one assignment. But now it's 10 days in a classroom in a row, 10 consecutive or 10 days in a month in the same assignment.
Did they change anything on long-term subs then? Or they left that alone?
Anyone with a sub-authorization rather than an actual, so if it's a retired teacher, so somebody who had a teaching degree, they can do a long-term sub job.
Right.
But the way it's currently written, anybody that has that 60 hours and went and got the sub-authorization, they cannot do a long-term because it would be more than 10 days in a month that they would be needed. So they can't do a long-term.
It's different
sub.
between a regular teaching license and a substitute license.
But they could switch classrooms.
Right, you could go, yeah, as long as they don't do 10 days in the
same
same
class.
classroom, yeah.
We have teachers give up their planning period, and one of the incentives is that we pay them to do that, so they teach all day. Has that stayed the same price every year? Has that gone up? Is that based on teacher salary, where they're at in the pay scale?
It was just something that was negotiated a long time ago.
Negotiated thing.
How long has it been at the same? I guess what I'm saying is how long has it been at the same rate? If we're gonna up it up, for sub teachers, we probably should consider upping it for teachers that are giving up their planning period if it's been at the same rate for a long time.
It's equivalent of $30 an hour for, because, and again, just as we've talked, that's not something I really want teachers to extensively do because that's a burden on them as well. And you referenced that not having a planning period is not so I don't necessarily want it to be at such a rate that everybody says, oh, I want to do that. But
We definitely don't have that problem right now. It's, if we don't have anybody in there, we don't have kids supervised. That's when we're at the point of no subs. We're talking 3-4 people a day without, that are out with COVID, and we only have a couple of subs. You get 5 people gone, and you've got 3 classrooms. So we've got teachers that are now stressed out because they've given up their planning period, but we don't have anybody else to cover them. Besides, putting them all in the gym.
and one thing that at one point we may get to is we may have to call off school for a day here and there if we don't have the ability to cover classes. I mean, that's just the reality of what we're facing right now.
But I think what he's saying is if a teacher's willing to sacrifice their planning period and be stressed out so that we don't have to do that, because we don't want to do that.
Correct.
Then they should be compensated just as well as a substitute teacher that's coming in.
I think they'd appreciate that. It's been brought up a couple times.
They're actually getting compensated more.
They
than
do
the
get more
substitute
than
teacher.
Okay, so what do they get? for-
$30
They
an
get
hour.
$30 an hour.
So 30 for that period.
Correct.
So 30 times 6 periods is
Right.
180. And the sub is 120 right now.
Mhm.
But most of them are just doing a 1 period a day, you know, because they only have 1 planning period.
Well, thank you. Thank those teachers.
The problem is if we start to rely on that, then we stress our whole staff. And they're in a position where I'm burned out, I gotta take a week off, mental health break, or I'm gonna leave teaching altogether. I mean, you know, that's where we're seeing in the healthcare. Nurses are leaving the profession because they're burned out on what they've had to do over the last year and a half. We don't want to do the same thing to our teachers with a small carrot that ends up in really causing them problems. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying both ways. You like to reward somebody for doing more, but at the same time, you don't want to incent them into insanity.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about that. They're not.
Okay, yeah, sure. You can talk to my daughter.
Any questions about subs? Again, we're having these issues across the board, but the other one I want to talk about in particular is nutrition. And to start out with, I want people to understand nutrition is self-sufficient. It is not part of the general fund. It's their own account that they're responsible for. The money they raise from, producing the meals and all that is, so we're not talking about general fund, but we're having challenges getting nutrition staff. The DeLeith is recommending to raise the minimum or the starting salary for nutrition folks. I think they're 11, or 11.20.
Yeah, it was from 10 to 11:20.
11.20. Which the result of that again is that we've got some people that are lower than that we also need to bump up as well. But, again, not an ideal situation, but looking at that, something I'd like to look at in other areas as well, but it's again, a challenge. I know there's some places that are going to $15 an hour. I did the calculations on that. If we increased everybody to $15 an hour, it would be between $150,000 and $200,000. And that does not calculate in the person who's getting $15 an hour that says, hey, you took the person from 11 to 15. I want to go from 15 to 19, which takes that from 200,000 to probably 400,000. I don't have the answer to that. The other part of that is, that Dr. Carver and I've talked significantly about is we do provide full benefits that I don't know if everybody takes that into account. Full benefits is equivalent to about $8,000. There are some schools that, if you work less than 30 hours, don't have to offer benefits. That, again, that becomes a challenge as well. But we pay more, but don't offer benefits. So, like I said, I don't have that. I wish I had answers still.
Yeah, well, I think some of that out there in general society, $15 an hour, but it doesn't tell you, is that plus benefits, or is this just salary, and then you got to figure all the rest of that out, because it's worth, I mean, you talked about $8,000 a year, and divided out by the number of hours, it's $253 an hour just for your health insurance. And then you got IPERS on top of that. And so I think somehow we need to market that when we're trying to hire people. And that's them. The other side of the coin is I got a call from one of the nutrition people at the top end of the wage scale. She's very distressed that she won't get a raise, that she'll stay at the same value. She thinks she should get a raise too if we're going to move up the starting salary. Tim pointed out, when you get a percentage increase, the people at the top of the salary get a bigger increase, so there is always division from the top to the bottom. I don't know what's fair, whether we have to transition the entire wage scale a certain amount, or whether we leave it the way the proposal is.
Yeah, everybody's going through it business, so this, I mean, it's,
What's that?
everybody's going through this in any kind of business.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I
But
don't know what you do to make it fair.
Have you looked at like just percentages, like giving a percentage raise to everybody so that, because I mean,
Did you
I
hear
would,
what they just said though, that if you already make more, your percentage is a lot more dollars than this
Mhm.
person down here. That's why sometimes percentage isn't the fairest way
Okay.
to do it.
okay.
You'd be better off giving everybody just $1 more or something, you know?
That's a, in my head, I've thought about that. What does that look like?
I mean, because I can understand that person's, if she's
Yeah.
worked here longer or he's worked here longer, that,
And I'm thinking
wouldn't be
maybe
quite
the
fair.
fair thing is to give that person on the top a 50 cent an hour raise, not necessarily a percentage raise.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you don't want to lose the people who've been loyal and worked here for a long time, because there are going to be other jobs out there that they'll look at too if they're upset enough. At the same time, they need to understand we're trying to get them help because they're stressed to the max now trying to do the extra work because they don't have enough help. I guess we can debate that when we get to the numbers.
There's no good answers.
No.
It's,
Like I said, the one I know of is the hospital, moved everybody to $15 an hour each. I mean, I knew that, but I'm sure there was as well.
but what did they do with their people that are already making that?
I think they increased some, but I don't know that it was proportional. You're saying no, or you don't know?
No, they increased everybody. They did lose employees who didn't like that they made a lesser amount more than other people with less experience and less credentials. So they made some people real happy and they made some people mad enough to quit.
So was it worth it then? You wonder,
So they did increase.
People that were
Somewhat.
already making the 15, they did get an increase on top of a 3% raise they gave everybody across the board. There was an adjustment, and I forget what they called it. Yeah. And that's where some people were dissatisfied with how that went.
The whole nutrition staff did get a 3.5% increase starting for this school year anyway. So what we're talking about is above and beyond that.
And they get that, they have a negotiating person or
No.
it's just what we do when we figure out.
Typically, again, with the percentage that teachers have gotten, that's gone to classified staff.
So we're just basically taking the teachers.
But the nutrition staff did get more than the other classified staff did.
So, no, again, like I said, there's not necessarily there's solutions, but there's answers to it, but it's changes, it's future reductions, we're still, everybody wonders, all this is driven by enrollment as well, and we're still, October 1st is the date for enrollment, but you can still put 2 weeks onto that from the standpoint of it. You don't instantly come up with the count, so the next board meeting when we've got a good indication of what our enrollment is. But again, that drives what we're able to do moving forward.
Is the nutrition budget driven at all by that? too?
No, nutrition budget is solely based on the number of kids that eat.
Nutrition is a enterprise program. It's not funded by tax dollars at all. It's its own enterprise. It's its own business.
The nutrition last year and
But it's supplemented by the federal government now.
By the number of meals you serve.
Yeah.
yeah, last year and this year are nice from the standpoint that there's free lunch for everybody. So we probably have more students that are eating that then we're getting reimbursed for more meals than we probably reimbursed for before. and they're reimbursed at a higher rate, because when you're under normal circumstances, for a paid meal, we're getting reimbursed for X amount, whereas a reduced meal, we're getting another amount, and for a free meal, we're getting a higher amount. I don't have the answers. I know that it's something we need to continue to talk about it more than subs and nutrition staff. It's something we need to look at across the board, but we need to make sure we've got a plan in place that will, allow us to survive it.
You ain't gonna keep them all happy. I don't know what you do.
Food for thought.
Okay. So we're moving on to future work sessions.
Would just like to have a conversation.
Ideas.
Asking for ideas, or, also, like things in life, things ebb and flow. Not saying that work sessions have outlived their usefulness, because I'm not saying that, but at the same time, sometimes when we sit here from 6 to 6:30 and look at each other, it gets uncomfortable as well. So, I don't know whether it's something that we, maybe moving forward, we don't do. Again, we don't do them in the summer.
Right.
So just move regular meeting to 5:15. The other part of that is, whether we need to wait till November for the organizational meeting to make that decision as well. But
I think we've had some really great work sessions, and so
Agreed.
I'd hate to say no to every one of them, because we've had teachers come in and give programs and students. So I don't know if you could just play it by ear, maybe one week not have it. And is it,
Unfortunately, when you organize for the year, you are supposed to set the time and date.
right, right.
So it'd kind of be bad to say, well, we're gonna have it at 5:15, unless we
Isn't that
decide
what we've
to
been
have it
doing
at
though for the last
6:30.
6 months? We've been
Yeah.
doing that. So like, would it cause regular board sessions though to run longer, because then you're going to be putting what you might have in a work session in there?
potentially, yeah. And
But you're
Brenda
still
and I
gonna save amount of time
Same
anyway,
thing.
right?
Right.
discussed that.
Yeah.
So,
I think that is why we went to work sessions, because the meetings were
Yeah.
going long, but I don't know.
Just think about every other meeting, we have a work session,
that's the thing about it, though. You would like to set,
a year schedule. there.
yeah, for people, it would be nice to be consistent. 5:15 is when a regular board meeting is, so they can show up. But,
Yeah.
if every other month it's 5:15 and 6:30, 5:15, 6:30, really wouldn't be conducive. You'd almost have to say that the work session is going to be at 6:30, and I don't know whether that's.
Maybe you said maybe make that decision in November after the
Correct.
elections probably would be the best.
Correct. I think that would be
I think
the
that's
best.
Yeah.
appropriate. The other
Yeah,
thought would be
absolutely.
just to reduce, we do it 5:15 to 6:15, maybe we don't need an hour. Maybe we don't, like a half an hour, start board meetings.
At 6.
5:45. We'll let the next board.
Then you get an idea for next month's work session for October? Anybody?
Aren't you gonna do the teachers clever touch? They're training. In fact, one of my ELA teachers said that to me, no?
No.
Okay, I was just planning on it, so tell her she doesn't have to do that.
Demonstrate us,
Well,
the
it
clever
was,
touch.
she's gonna do it in the spring. Is there nothing on that?
They've got a session where they're supposed to
Okay,
demonstrate, but it's not for the board, or not at a board meeting.
oh, it's not at a board meeting,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'll make her half of that.
I could put together a moderately entertaining video montage of the lunchroom.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'm not sure as little as you'd like.
A whole hour.
Deals with the nutrition.
Yeah, no problem.
Sounds great.
Yeah, we would have probably enrollment next month. I mean, that obviously isn't gonna take a full hour, but
And it does work pretty good to have the administrators do their
reports.
reports during the work session.
So I could talk for an hour.
Look
At
at
this
test
point,
scores, data.
Whatever you want.
Can you do full
Yeah.
hour?
At this point, just.
Work session is.
Some material.
I just didn't skip the work session.
So we're gonna do some other non-action items or reports. We go to the administrative reports.
Mr. Johnson, yes.
Well, just as Tim talked, subs are hard. Last week, we had a couple of days where we were 17 to 20 staff members out in the building. And associates, I mean, they're not out there. I know Jill has put stuff out there a lot on Facebook and whatnot. And there's just not a lot of people out there.
Laura does a lot of those, by the way, not Jill.
And just to clarify, that's combination of teachers and associates.
It's a combination of teachers and associates, yeah, so, you know, we've been lucky to get most of the teachers covered up in some way or another, so that's good. But on some positive things, we're bringing back our tailgate party at the elementary that we had 2 years ago. So October 8th, in the bus turnaround, we're going to do that from 5 to 6:30. The cattlemen will be grilling for us. And just kind of have like games out there for the families to come and do. It was a little successful when we did it 2 years ago. I think we ended up with, we guessed about 350 people show up. So see how it goes in October for us. The fourth grade just had their farm safety field trip. They went out to the Jurgen brothers and that went very well for them. Friday, we're going to History Boy Theater for the Schoolhouse Rocks performance. And then first grade will be going to the zoo on the 23rd. That's sponsored by Beta Tau Delta. So, and they do a great job with it. I mean, they pay for everything, transportation, they pay for a meal for the kids, the kids get to take a train ride, they get to feed the giraffe, and then they have like a souvenir bag for them. So I mean, what they're giving those kids, it's just above and beyond really when you think about it. And then kindergarten will be going out to Deal's Orchard. I can't remember how many years we've been doing that now. A long time, Julie, as long as you can remember. But overall, you know, this school year has been a really great start to the school year. So.
So not to put a damper on that, but the administrative team talked about things go further south. Do we start to cancel some of those or postpone some of those?
I have told the teachers that, you know,
There's a certain rate that's.
and I think the teachers are aware of that because they've asked before they schedule some of these things, you know, what happened. And I said, well, we just have to play it by ear, see what's happening and so on. I think there was one that we did not do because the venue was going to require masks for the kids, and obviously we can't require the kids to wear masks, so.
Yeah, I just don't know whether when you get to a certain absentee rate or an indication that you have a positivity rate, maybe it's time to not do the extra things that might tip us over. And I don't know whether that's something we talk about and try to set a rate, or we just do like you said, use common sense when we get to it.
And to be honest, the student numbers have not been as big an issue as the staff numbers.
Yeah.
The bigger concern I have is whether we're gonna be able to find bus drivers in order to drive. Are we gonna be able to get a substitute for a teacher to take a trip? You know, it is the bigger issue. I don't know that we've really had the issue about the number of students being something, you know, yet something we can think about, talk about.
Most of our students that have gotten it have been mom or dad came home with it. And then they got it that way.
By the way, like yesterday, there were a number of retired teachers who came to help with, because they split each class in two, and so we had a number of retired teachers out there helping with Farm Day to help supervise. And made it a better experience for the kids to have smaller numbers at each station. And Farm Bureau's done a really good job of enhancing that whole program. It's always been a good program, but they really enhanced it. We had 10 different stations and move kids around. And they had a good time. I think they learned some things.
Mr. Sanders?
Good evening. I'd like to also compliment the Farm Bureau. They invited the fifth graders who didn't get to go last year to come out and join them in the afternoon, and they really had a nice time from what I understand also. And our fifth and sixth graders will be attending the History Boy production as well, I think at a different time, afternoon. Yeah, on Friday also, so they're excited about that. I just wanted to mention how grateful we are to have Monday, though, for the upcoming professional learning. It's gonna be a full day for sure. We have activities ranging from the data review to trauma-informed learning to a review of some professional learning community protocols and some modeling of that. We have our MTSS teams meeting. We have our guiding coalition meeting. We have special education teachers meeting. We have content teams meeting. Just a whole bunch of stuff going on throughout the day. It's gonna be really full. Part of that day will also be a faculty meeting, and I just wanted to mention, not everybody's, I don't know if anybody's aware of this, just blow the horn of our staff a little bit. I know on Fridays, they like to wear jeans. In the last few years, we've asked them to contribute something in return for that opportunity to wear denim on Friday. And last year, we collected over $700 from our staff, and we're gonna be making a number of donations this year to different organizations. And we've already voted to continue that this upcoming year.
Thank you. We had the Army here today. 11th graders all took the ASVAB test. And I had to write down what that means, ASVAB, as far as the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's kind of a practice test similar to the ACT type. So it's good practice for the kids to take that class, even if they're, or that test, even if they're not going to be in the military. So thank you to the custodians that set that up in the gym. There's a lot of tables in there, and it took a lot of work to get that done. I'll submit the early grad requests at the next board meeting. The due date for that is the end of the month. Got a couple of those. I anticipate getting a couple more. Hardest part for the kids is putting a letter of why they want to graduate early. They're easy. They turn in the form, but they always forget that, where's the letter? What are you doing? And most of them are working to save for college. Started classroom observations. I'm trying to get into every teacher's classroom for a short visit and give them some feedback. I went with Mrs. Carmen's Green Spaces class to Raccoon Valley Radio over in Perry, and the kids got to get on the radio, some of them, and most of them eventually will get on the radio by doing some other field trips. Couldn't get them all on the radio at one time, but it was a great experience for them to have real life hands-on work with that. So, and echo what Mr. Johnson said, it's been a challenge with teachers and subs, and especially associates. We're already still looking for associates, and I shudder to think if we would lose a couple, it's just going to be very trying. So it's one of those things that's in society right now, everybody's looking for people.
Mrs. Sandberg?
So this time of year is doing a lot of state reports, finishing getting those submitted from last year's data, but then I just finished up yesterday doing Title I, Title II, and Title IV reports and submitting those. The comprehensive school improvement plan was submitted, and now today the desk audit opened up. So now we do desk audits with the Department of Ed rather than the old site visits when they used to actually come to the buildings and do. Now I have to compile documents and submit them electronically, and that's what they look at in addition to our schedules and data that they automatically collect throughout the year. That's how they kind of evaluate us for accreditation now. So I'll start working on that, and that's due by December 15th. Other than that, I've been working on getting everything set up for the year with our gifted program, meeting with our new gifted coordinator, Megan Haley, 504s, regular meetings set up with special ed staff, and we've already started having some IEP meetings for kids, and so that takes some time. Working on, I'm going to be doing some classroom observations in tandem with Julie this year to look at what's going on with reading and how we can beef that up and make sure that we've got the right supports in place to make sure we're meeting kids' needs. So we're going to be doing that. And I'm still working on the ISAS data. Hopefully I'll have some growth numbers and things to bring next month so that we can take a look at where we are as a system related to that.
Would you explain to us what Title I, Title II, Title III? What's the meaning
So
behind that?
Title I is for economically disadvantaged, and we use that. We only utilize Title I funding for reading support. Some districts have both a Title I reading system and a Title I math system, but we just do reading because of the funds. The funds are generated by the number of kids that you have that qualify, and that's what creates the budget for you of how many dollars you're going to be allocated. So ours are all used for reading, and but then there are certain criteria that we have to meet. Our system is school-wide, which means that on any given day, any kid could be getting Title I support. The Title I teachers, back in the day, you would have gone into a classroom and said, you 6 kids are coming with me, and they would have pulled those out. Now the Title I teachers have the ability to go in and work with a small group in the classroom. Today it's the 6 kids, tomorrow it might be these 6 kids, whatever. There's a lot more flexibility with school-wide, and kids don't, that way the support is more readily available. So that's Title I. Title II is around professional learning, and then the DE has provided us with certain guidelines as to what we can spend those funds on. And for us, we focused on the learning that's been around math and some STEM things with Aaron Daniel and Audrey and the work that they're doing with teachers to help them improve in that area. So, but what you have to prove is that you're making things better. You're supplementing what you're doing rather than replacing. So that's Title II. Title III we don't apply for, but that has to do with students who are English language learners. And that money funds through the ADA to us. And then Title IV is kind of an all-encompassing area. There are 3 different areas in which you can spend the money. Safe and healthy kids, technology, and STEM, okay?
Hands-on STEM.
Yes, and so
Instruction.
our Title IV dollars are around the work that Aaron has done and is doing now that we have computer science standards that we have to put into place, K-12 also. Aaron has done a really great job trying to get some things going at the elementary level with technology and building what she's doing here at the middle school with kiddos and offering them some other opportunities and putting things in place. And then she also applied for a couple of STEM scale-up grants from the state of Iowa last year and got those. So there'll be some new things that kids will be working with this year, but that is our Title IV funds.
Thank you. Mrs. Neal?
Just going off of Title I, our Title I teachers, we have 3, well, 2.5 at the elementary and 1 here. They've already started working with groups because we already identified in the spring who's going to be at risk. So they've been taking some groups, and they've also, we started testing the universal screeners, so we'll know, you asked last time, how well are you doing, Julie? So I don't know until we screen. Well, we're starting to do that screener now. So they're helping with that as well. And hopefully, by next meeting, we'll kind of give you some more info on that. We are going to have a Title I parent night, we kind of call it, kind of combination with the Scholastic Book Fair that the elementary has. So that's when we do our parent contact about reading 20 minutes with your child every night. So we'll be doing that this Tuesday. I think it's from 6 to 8, I think. So Scholastic Book Fair / Title I parent night. And then just got done mailing out over 100 letters to community people about funding our RAM Reader account to give kids books at the elementary for pre-K through 4th grade. And we usually give 4 distributions out a year. It's probably around probably $1,500 every time we do that. So Boost gives us a big chunk of that, so appreciate their support. And then the community also donates to that. Spent the morning with Doug Rita this morning interviewing students for that jingle about real world learning. So that was kind of fun. We did a couple here at the middle school, and we did 3 at the high school. So we'll be listening for those and what we've been doing in the district. I've also been going in already to observe classrooms, helping get our new phonics program up and running, and watching for fidelity checks with that. And then it's going to be more data-driven and focused, and been working with Maria Aubrey on that to make sure that we're staying on top.
Mr. Gordon?
We are week 4, halfway through the football season this week, which is hard to imagine. And playoffs. So homecoming a week from Monday, homecoming week activities that week. We hosted our cross-country meet last Saturday, had great weather. Special thanks to the city of Jefferson. Dave Destival was fantastic to work with out there. Just a great venue, great spot, and appreciate the Kiwanis really stepping in and filled a lot of spots to help out. But we had a lot of volunteers that it takes to do that, and appreciate the people that came out and helped. Some of these guys here too. So it's a great day, and we already got it up penciled for the next week or the next year. I'll continue to work with Jamie Pollard and Iowa State to make sure the Iowa State team stays off of our time slot across the country. And they keep that little football game to themselves late afternoon. So anyway, so that was really fun to do volleyball. Still has a couple more, 2 or 3 home matches left, but they're going to be, they're about 3 or 4 weeks from postseason as well. We host our volleyball tournament October 2nd, 8 teams. Didn't get to do it fully last year because of COVID. So this year we'll have all 8 teams at the high school using that facility. So that'll be good as well. And Esports is into their season, into their third match, I think this week, second match this week. So we're off and going, just trying to hang on now.
How did Esports do in their match? I never saw
I
it.
didn't hear.
Okay.
I didn't hear. And
I think they lost a
It
close
was
one.
a close
Okay.
loss.
Lost
Yeah.
the first one.
No news.
However you scored, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they go by the number of games they win and this and
How
that,
many,
but
how many kids do we have involved with esports?
I think over 20. Yeah, more than, I think in the winter, they'll have 2 varsity teams and a JV team. Right now, we have 1 varsity, 1 JV, I think just to get it off and running. But as we get more kids, I think they're expecting more kids in the winter. And then we'll have 2 varsity teams and maybe 1 JV or maybe 2 JV teams. I don't know.
So is there a possibility of being a 2-sport athlete, whatever we call an e-sport person?
Yes and no. It's hard because they practice at the same time.
Yeah.
And the competitions are on Thursday when they have either, like football. We had some football boys that wanted to do it, but just couldn't manage the schedule. Now, the other thing that Kyle's looking for, Brent, you can probably speak to this too a little bit. There are some weekend tournaments, some Sunday tournaments that would stand alone, where some of those kids, if they wanted to be involved, they could compete in those weekend tournaments. But I think right now we're just learning to walk before we sprint.
Right.
What's the season? Is it all?
It is all, it's through, Brent, is it through the winter, I think, all the way through the winter?
So there's 3 seasons. Yep. And I had esports on my notes of things to discuss as well. So sorry.
Stealing your thunder.
I didn't want to steal your thunder, to be honest with you. So yeah, there's three seasons. There's a fall, there's a winter, and there's a spring season. And every season they play different games. So we're playing Rainbow Six Siege and Super Mario Smash Bros. In the fall, and they'll do a game called Rocket League and Overwatch in the winter, and then they play 2 other games in the spring. But there's a whole committee, and it's a big deal for how these games are elected and everything. I don't know if you want me to talk now or if you want me to wait until my turn. I don't want to finish with Todd's.
I'm done.
I'll keep going. So let me just show you. We actually have an Esports Arena, and I wanted to thank you all very much for allowing us to buy the computers that the students use to play the games on. So we purchased them from a vendor called Bytespeed. We have 6 computers. We only use 5 of them, and then we'll have 1 more for streaming, which would probably be this one over here. So you can see that they're kind of neat. They've got little RAM logos on them that say Esports underneath. And we actually got a really good deal on them. I don't know if you know anything about computer hardware and components, but everything's crazy pricing, priced crazy high right now because of COVID and whatever. So thank you very much for allowing us to buy those. They had a great experience on Thursday. They played Council Bluffs, which has over 9,000 students, and they brought them into overtime in both matches. So we played very competitively, and Coach Miller was really proud of his kids, and the kids, it sounds like, had a great time with it, and they were very encouraged with this huge school that they played against being so competitive. So that was awesome. I think just on its own right that way. But yeah, we've got 2 more coaches lined up for the winter and the fall. It'll be Bob Palmer and Jeff Wiley, or in the spring, excuse me, and Jeff Wiley will be coaching the other seasons. So, and then we've got a JV team that actually plays tomorrow. They play Smash Bros. And so we are hoping to live stream. I don't know if we'll be able to live stream Smash Bros because they're still working out kind of the Nintendo side of it, but we've got a game for Rainbow Six Siege. Not tomorrow, they have a bye week this week, but next week we're home, so we get to host and we can live stream too. So yeah, I told you there's a whole thing. It's a big deal. Anyway, it's fun though because the kids are having a blast. It sounds like, and you've got a diverse group of athletes that are a part of it. So I think it's been a great success so far.
I was talking to a boy that is on esports, and I said, Grandview offers scholarships, and I know there's other colleges too, and his eyes just lit up. Really? Good. Yeah. So, I mean.
Iowa Central has a team.
Yeah.
Great deal.
That was pretty cool. Something for him to shoot for.
That's it. Everybody?
Unless you got,
So.
have Adam or anybody.
Got that video queued up there?
No, I don't. It's not ready yet. Do some editing.
More editing.
Well, we got 23 minutes, still, right? 6:30.
Yeah.
So mingle, I guess, and we'll adjourn the work session. And the meeting of Greene County School District Board to order. District Vision Mission, developing lifelong learners through real world experiences.
Good job.
All right.
I was gonna
Got that. Only took me 4 years to learn that. Roll call and establishment of quorum.
Denmark. Fisher.
Here.
McConnell's absent. Wilson. Here. Carver.
Here. Have approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Please call the roll.
Fisher.
Aye.
Denhart.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. We have open forum. This is on the agenda to allow people of the district to communicate with the entire board. Allow no more than 5 minutes for individuals, slightly more for organized group. And should be directed to the board through any grievance procedure if that's, so you can speak on any item that's not on the agenda. If we do have something on the agenda, you can speak to it at the time and we would recognize you as we go through the agenda. So do we have anyone who wishes to speak in the open forum? If not, we'll move to the consent items. Minutes, bills, financial reports, hirings, number of hirings for nutrition staff, it looked like. But there's a number of hirings too, I think, right? Anyway, so anybody have any questions about you put in the separate report in this financial report that I talked about last time, is that what that?
I did put an unspent balance report in there, yep,
Yeah.
I did. After the CAR is done, I can plug in numbers and, of course, it's not final until the department management looks over it, but Laura, can you go back to,
The unspent balance.
The unspent authorized budget,
yeah, there you go. And so we were pretty close all year as, we ended up 1.3 yada yada. So we're still well above our $1 million. But,
kind of helps break it down to where some of the income comes and what some of the allowance.
that's how they come up with the unspent balances, all of that. Yep. And that's always something I have in there as an estimate every month, but this is the final after the CAR is done. So,
Thank you.
But I mean, just highlighting that, when we were talking before about like the homeschool, that is part of that, but can only be spent on homeschool. So for somebody to, even though that's general fund, it's still categorical in terms of what you can spend it on, if that makes sense to people. We couldn't spend homeschool money to buy computers for everybody.
So you need a motion.
Yep.
All right, I move that we approve the consent items.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the consent items. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver,
Aye. Okay, old business, no, are we still, yeah, old business. COVID update?
Just want to share, again, we continue to encourage, maintaining personal space, cover your cough, wash hands, stay home when you're sick. I am looking at purchasing some mobile air purification devices for the elementary. Probably half dozen to begin with, kind of test them out. It is something I am looking at. Again, they appear to be pretty proactive in terms of killing the virus and purifying air and everything. So that's something I'm looking at. I know people are always wondering about numbers. From the start of the year, we've had 49 students. That's across the entire district, which is about 4%. And we've had 20 staff, which is 10%. Again, as we talked about before, to be honest, the biggest challenge is the staff, because we're still in a position that, how do we supervise students? How do we, get students to school? How do we do all those things? So the staffing has been more of an issue, I think, than the student illness related to that. Obviously with the recent temporary injunction, masks were not allowable before due to state law.
Mask mandates were allowed.
Mask mandates,
Masks have always been
correct.
allowed.
Correct, thank you.
Yeah, you can wear masks.
Mask mandate was not allowed. There is now a temporary injunction. School districts across the state obviously are, as they're having board meetings, are having those conversations. I know Des Moines School District, probably 2 hours after it came down, they decided for a mask mandate. I know Ankeny School District had a meeting last night and they're going to discuss it further. I think Johnston and Urbandale maybe are having board meetings tonight. I think West Des Moines is tomorrow night. Other than Des Moines, I have not heard of a school, and maybe I haven't heard all of them, but that is, Iowa City did a mandate.
So it's big schools.
So I just want to put that out there. I don't know whether anybody has any questions, comments about that.
Question, have we had, through public health and nursing, have we had vaccination clinics for 12 and older?
There was if you recall, during the year last year, at the very end, they had vaccination clinic for 12 and above.
The first week of August, I believe they had 2 clinics at Public Health for vaccinations. I don't know what kind of numbers they had for those.
We haven't really looked at planning anything for the younger age group. I mean, projection is that vaccine will be available the end of September, October for the next younger age group. I don't even know.
I would just say the way that public health, and it's not just COVID, it's with everything, public health has been very good to cooperate with us. You know, they come in and they give MMR, they give lots of vaccinations through the years. So, you know, if it would be available, I think that they would come in and with parent consent, obviously give vaccinations. So as you're thinking about that, the other conversation piece I want to have, you know, last month when we put kind of plan together, you know, I mentioned that I would give daily, you know, updates, whether there's cases in the buildings or not. I'm not giving counts or anything, but whether there's cases, and I send out a daily blast. I've got, you know, not all comments about receiving those have been positive. Like to have conversation whether that's something that.
Is there a way, like, we talked about this because I know, like, with the flu, you had to give, if you get 10% absentees in your school, then you had to let public health know, right?
You start to have conversations about it with public health, and, you know, are there.
And did you find out, is that kind of the same with this COVID? They want to know, do you know for sure?
Again, to be honest, and not saying anything negative at all about public health, because they've been fantastic about it, but they've, you know, aren't doing as much due to, you know, at the state level, they're basically saying, don't do contact tracing, don't do X, Y, and Z. So they're doing much less than they.
So I guess my question is could we send out a text when we are getting close to that 10% maybe, instead of, because it's almost every day that there's a text, and even when there's not any positive cases, we got a text. So which was nice. That was nice.
No,
This is nice.
The comment somebody made, and it was, I think it was a positive one. If I hadn't sent out a text, somebody's going to say, oh, we forgot to do it. So I didn't want anybody to say, oh, we forgot. I wanted to make sure that, yes, we remembered.
Yeah.
So,
I just don't know that it's necessary, you know, every time. That's what I'm saying is because we're not quarantining and we're not looking for who was around who, you know, and I just think maybe it's not necessary. I don't know. That's just my point of view. Anybody else feels differently?
You know, I'm still, I guess of the opinion and want to send the message to people that I don't care whether it's school, the grocery store, Casey's, the football game, I don't care what it is. You're kidding yourself if there's not somebody that is asymptomatic and positive or whatever around you, and you need to take the necessary precautions.
I think it's something we're gonna have to learn how to live with. And I would presume that most of us don't want to live with masks for the rest of our lives. But I mean, vaccination reduces severity of illness and mortality. The biggest question is, what is our obligation to the frail and elderly to try to prevent them from being infected? And we certainly have some students in our classrooms that are at high risk. So how do we protect them? And I don't know whether that's something that happens at a classroom level and the class decides, you know, we have somebody in here who's being treated for acute leukemia, so maybe we all ought to mask. I don't think there's enough consensus in our population to mask on a regular basis. And really, there's no reason to mask to try to protect yourself. It's to try to protect the other person. When you put the mask on, you're protecting somebody else. You're not really protecting yourself. So I question, I guess, our ability as a population to say we're going to do a mask mandate. I don't think there'll be enough consensus to do that. I'm not sure we want to fight that fight again. I would encourage everybody to get vaccinated and then be as careful as they can. And then maybe in special instances, we should have healthcare recommendations maybe to a classroom. Should this classroom do something special to try to protect this person so they can come to class? Just a thought. I don't know how you do that.
And I would say that a recent meeting that I was in with the school administrators of Iowa, that was part of the conversation is there a happy medium under certain circumstances that people would buy into, and I don't know whether that's
And it's hard because, here you're asking, 7-year-olds to make a decision about protecting each other. That's kind of got to be the whole family's decision too. So it's going to take a lot of communication in that setting. But if I had a child who I thought was at risk that I'm going to send to school, I would be interested in knowing whether COVID's active, how active it is. So I don't know that we need the daily report, but I think I would still do some sort of bi-weekly report or something to kind of summarize so that we're transparent.
Fridays, Fridays.
Yeah, something
Sounds like a
weekly,
good
so
idea.
that the public has an understanding of where we're at, our rates currently 4% versus 10% or 0%. And then if we do have special instances, it's going to take a special discussion, I guess, between administrators, the classroom teacher, and families to try to decide how to protect that individual. And maybe they don't go to all the classes, but maybe they come to part of the day. And during that part of the day, everybody tries to protect each other as best they can, either through social distancing or masking. And that's with 2 children that are, in the midst of this whole battle, and, one of them's nearly driven crazy by the other, and the other one's developed a crassness that he never thought he'd have because he's angry because people don't get vaccinated to protect themselves, and we're still having to do this. Anyway.
Steve, any thoughts, comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
So I guess let's keep some sort of once a week.
Do you need a motion for that because it was on the return to learn?
It would probably be nice. I guess another thought I have, and I don't know whether this is almost an informed consent, unless you hear differently, there's been a case, but maybe that's the approach.
I think Friday reports is a good idea. Do you want me to make a motion of that?
Yeah, that, and I guess the other part of the motion would be to just monitor the whole situation, and if we need to have a special meeting to look at things moving forward, maybe do something like that.
Just like he said. I make a motion, like Tim said. Motion to change the return to learn to notifications on Fridays, whatever you decide to put, and then to revisit the situation if necessary. Yeah.
Second.
Thanks.
Moved and seconded to have a weekly report and to reconvene if the situation changes significantly. Please call roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Benhart.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Garber.
Aye. So this is a second reading of board policy changes that there's some that will be rescinding, some replacing and adding new. It has to do with freedom of
these are
speech and
all recommendations from Iowa Association of School Boards. The first group again is rescinding those about school publications. And there's one on cameras. Recording devices is the other one. The other, again, now we've got some replacement policies. The one big one that, again, we talked about last month, just want to highlight is the public participation in school board meetings. For an item to be put on an agenda and be able to interact with the board and discuss, it still needs to go through the board process in terms of lowest level. Need to have a conversation with teacher, principal, superintendent, school board, and then you put it on the agenda. But there is a new process that there can be a petition. 10% of the people that voted in the last election or 500 eligible voters, and then it gets put on the agenda as essentially almost an open open forum item, I can't talk, where they have an opportunity to address the board. Board president can set time for the discussion and everything, so that's.
It's just kind of formalizing that open
Correct.
forum discussion.
Yeah.
And allowing it to be part of the meeting if necessary.
Again, there's some updates to the policies, the student publications and student expression. An employee expression policy change. Again, the student expression, making sure they have freedom of expression. And then there's a weapons policy in there too. It's opens it up more for law enforcement, military to carry weapons on school grounds.
Did we ever figure out if it's 10% of the last school board election or the last gubernatorial or last general election? Did we ever figure that out?
It's the last election. So
Just last
again,
election.
I mean, realistically looking at this, I think November 2nd is the election that you're going to be looking at moving forward.
Okay. Until the next election. Correct. Okay. Got it.
But with that being said, I do think it is school board related.
Okay.
So
That's what I thought, but I didn't know if that
in
was.
December, if there's a special election for Park and Rec,
Sure.
that's not
Not
going
gonna
to
count. Okay. All right.
So we need to approve the second reading and then we need to approve the policies.
No,
Just
that
approve
does
second.
approve them
Yeah,
So
once
if
we do
approve the second reading, that approves the policies.
Yep.
A motion for approval of the second reading of these board policies.
I do kind of have a question. So when the Iowa School Board Association sends this to us, we kind of have to do that. I've had people ask me, like the wording and stuff, do we have to stick with the wording they send us? I mean, like legally, how are we?
We don't have to, but it's in our best interest too.
Because they've already had lawyers look
That's
over it.
what I was gonna say, the best reason to
That's
is
what I
because
said,
they
yeah.
do
They've
look for
already looked over
legality
it.
of the wording.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me if we have to go with
And
this.
they have multiple people looking.
Right, right.
this way.
They have lawyers on staff.
Okay.
Motion?
I motion we approve these.
Second.
Second.
Good job, Mike.
That we approve the second reading of the board policy changes, including all these numbers.
Yeah. Do you want to read
Please
them?
call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Okay, we've been through administrative reports. Any board committees? I don't think there
Are we gonna start meeting again, committees? We didn't meet last year hardly at all. No? Okay.
Which committee?
Just all
Yeah,
of
I
them,
need to get-
health and wellness and,
Yeah, I need to get help on this.
and the,
And that's the one that meant the most, but there was.
We did one side.
just
I
curious.
have a meeting on Friday, but that's more of the advisory, ag advisory committee's meeting next Monday.
As I say, Monday, actually, I'm throwing me there.
Other reports, correspondence, nothing? Okay, new business, fundraiser requests, we have a number of them.
Yeah, next we have 5. There's 2 track fundraisers for the spring. IJAG fundraiser, music one, and then a student support fundraiser. Recommend approving those.
So, Mr. Gordon, the one for Braden, is that through the GoFundMe?
It'll be something separate.
It'd be something separate.
Just don't quite know what, but I just want to get it approved. So probably do something during homecoming week.
How is he doing?
I don't think we are gonna know for several days or several weeks.
Yeah, I just haven't heard nothing. That's why I asked.
Right now, it's kind of support and wait to see how much of function he gets back. Would be my interpretation of what I've heard. I don't know a lot.
Right.
Need a motion? Yeah. I move that we approve the fundraiser requests.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, do we approve fundraiser requests? Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart.
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. out-of-state trip requests. We've got, want to do them together or we'll do separately?
You might want to do them separately. I think that
Yeah, but-
Michael's here if you have questions for the vocal
Okay.
one, so if you want to do the
So the
FFA one
FFA
first.
one is the national convention, which we've typically approved in the past, and they will look at sending to 8 to 10 members, and transportation is organized with surrounding school districts. Motion to approve that.
I'll move that we approve the FFA National Convention.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the FFA National Convention trip. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. And then we have a request from Dave Heupel for Worlds of Fun Festival of Music to Kansas City. It kind of looks like it's a day trip.
And I think he's
Wonderful.
on if you want to ask him anything.
There'll be a performance there as well as some coaching and
We've done that in the past. I don't know. how
Been a
many
few years.
Yeah.
Maybe Dave could tell you how many years.
Dave, do you want to say anything?
Just that, yeah, it's something, like it says, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. It's something we've done several times, every other year. It just hasn't been brought up in a while because it's hard to imagine that we're talking about things that were canceled because of the start of that COVID. But that was, this spring would have been 2 years ago, so that was canceled. So we haven't gone in, this spring would be 4 years, but we've done it several times. It's a really good festival and it's not required, but encouraged, and most of the kids go. So, and the fundraising request is combined with that because we like to make it cost-free for the kids. So if there's any questions, I can answer them.
Okay, I'll make a motion for the high school Worlds of Fun and Festival of Music fundraiser. Or no, it's out of state trip, sorry.
Yes.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the Vocal Worlds of Fun Festival of Music out-of-state trip to Kansas City. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart.
Aye.
Wilson. Carver.
Okay. On to the fun and difficult stuff.
Yeah.
Start with the nutrition fund pay scale.
Substitute that.
Was that?
Substitute someone.
Well,
No,
yeah, that's
nutrition
what here, but
first.
the agenda has in a
Nutrition
different
first.
order.
Nutrition.
So.
You told me you were nutrition too, so.
So which one?
Yeah, nutrition, you're right.
We'll do nutrition? Okay. So you see the currently hourly rates, and the current starting hourly rate would have been $10, and a substitute would be $1 less at $9. Proposal of moving that to $11.20 with benefits for, that's a full-time starting coach, is that correct? Correct. And then $11 for a substitute cook. With an increase in several others who were below that level. And then those at the top of the pay scale, there is not any proposed increase. Mrs. Ostrander is a new hire at $13, has a culinary degree, so started at a little higher level. Guess I open it up to what you all think about this, whether there's any changes you would propose.
You want a motion?
And this is delete food service
Yeah.
director,
Yeah.
you know, again, I rely on her recommendation for,
Yeah.
and I'd recommend that this be approved.
And you said that Brenda, you said that they all got a raise.
Yeah, they got
This year,
everybody got
everybody
three
got
and
a
a
raise.
half. Mhm.
So that, I think that's important to know, is that even the ones that have been there and are not getting this, they've got a raise this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so I move that we approve the nutrition pay scale raises.
Second.
Moved in second that we approve the nutrition pay scale as proposed. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
I'm gonna vote no. Okay. So now the substitute teacher pay. So associates, custodians, right? All of those. So this sheet,
Of course, that
You all
cook one
see
would be
that?
wrong because the sub cook one then would be
sub
11
clerk would
instead of
be
10.
11 instead of, yes,
Yeah.
okay. So scratch that,
Yep.
but
but the rest.
substitute teacher would go from 120 to 135. Substitute nurse would go from 23 per hour to 25 per hour. Sub-associate from 9 to 10. Sub-teachers working as sub-associates would go from 11 to 12. Substitute custodian from 11 to 12. And then in the summer it would be 12 to 13. Questions? Input? Motion?
I'll move that we approve the substitute pay rates.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the sub-pay raises as the sheet dictates. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Okay. Public hearing on flexibility funds. So this is what we discussed at the work session, and we need to have a public hearing set at our next board to put that information out and open it up for any discussion. Have a motion for that.
But one thing I do see though on this that probably needs to be changed, if we're having a work session at 5:15, then that time probably needs to change to 6:30. So we need to decide that now, today, if we're having a work session or not a work session next month.
I think we almost need to continue having those because that's what we said in the.
Okay. So I'm gonna change that to 6:30 before you approve it.
Okay.
Before I propose that you
Yeah.
approve it.
Yeah. So I move that we approved the public hearing, which will be Wednesday, October 20th at 6:30.
Second.
Moved and seconded to have notice of public hearing
On flexibility.
On flexibility funds. Yeah.
on what?
On the flexibility.
On the
fund
flexibility
amendment.
fund. Flexibility account for excess preschool and title reading expenditures above fund.
And see, that's not right either. It's the opposite way around.
It's the other way around. All right.
Here's
You'll get it right.
spend funds from the flexibility account
Yeah.
to fund the excess preschool and title. So it's in the funds are the unexpended homeschool assistant.
Right.
funds.
As Brenda said.
Well, I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
make sure that's
We're
clear.
gonna take funds from the homeschool assistance program and move them to the flexibility
Flexibility.
account to be able to use them in
Yep.
preschool and title
Yes.
reading expenditures, to
Yes.
clarify that for
Yep.
everyone, including me. We have a motion.
We do have a
We do.
motion.
That's the
Yeah,
motion.
so Fisher,
Please call the roll.
Aye.
Denhart.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Thank you. So the 2021 certified annual report, transportation report, special education supplement. Basically, we need to approve these because we have to apply for.
Actually, you don't need to approve them. I just need to kind of tell you that I did it, and I submitted it and gave you each a copy of some of the reports within the report. Lots and lots of information here. There's balance sheets, there's the summary of where the revenues and expenditures all come from and go to in each and every fund. It's too much to go through one by one or anything, but if after you've looked at them, if you have questions, please come ask me. But It's pretty detailed. Makes for a stressful time of year for me, to be quite honest with you, but, after you get that certified annual report all cleaned up and it looks right, then you have to start in on this special ed supplement, and that, again, tells you where the funds come from, where they were spent, number of kids and all that. We will have you act on, the next thing is to ask for allowable growth for that, the negative balance, which the balance is not as bad as it was last year, but it's still negative. And then after you get that part done, then you have to work on the annual transportation report. And I need to thank Robert Stoker for his help with the numbers, and Tim Christensen with his help too. Because there's miles and students and then all the expenditures. And anyway, so that is, you can't really finalize anything. Well, you can't finalize anything until after August 31st, because there's accrued bills and accrued receipts that come in that you have to account for in the correct fiscal year. And then you've got 2 weeks after that to get it done and submitted. And I went ahead and submitted it last Wednesday because I just needed to get it off my plate and not think about it anymore. So
you're
that's
telling,
it.
so we have trust in Brenda.
Well, people look at it, believe me. The state looks at it, our others look at it, so.
This is our homework before next meeting. We need to review this and then come back next meeting to approve it, or?
You can accept it. If you want to make a motion, it would be more proper to say you're accepting it from me, not approving it, because I don't expect you to be able to approve it, so.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the certified annual report for transportation and special education supplement?
So move.
Second.
We've been seconded to accept this report. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye.
Thank you, Brenda.
And then to go with that, like I said,
So
then,
then we do need to approve
Yes.
the request
yes,
for the allowable growth for the special education, so that that's
Yeah.
applied to our
Spending authority.
spending authority. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that a motion for that?
I'll move to approve the 2020 to the 2021 CBRC request for allowable growth with special education deficit and excess limited English proficiency expenditures. Can we do both of those? at the
I
same
think
time?
we have to do two separate motions,
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
are we
Yeah.
just doing the special
Let's
education?
just do
then?
special ed first.
So we'll just do special education first.
I don't know, I put it in the minutes that it's 448, 344.
448,344.92.
Yep.
Been moved and
Yep, you
seconded.
did. Yeah, yep, we did.
Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye.
And now I need to make a
So
motion. for
now
the
we're
excess.
looking at the excess limited English proficiency expenditures, and I'm not sure
It's ELL,
is that this one?
yep, and the yellow highlight is the amount we're asking
So
for.
we're asking for 10,969.77 in spending authority.
Right,
Because of the expenditure that was
it takes more to do the
was used in
program.
the last year for the English learning program.
Yep.
Have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion for that. Excessive limited English proficiency expenditure of the number she said, $10,969.77.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the excess limited English proficiency expenditures. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. We need to assign somebody to the IASB delegate assembly. I've done it in the past and will not be on the board at the time of the IASB delegate assembly, so I will not be eligible to do that.
Correct, and based on the fact that
Well, we have 2 members.
election and everything, the only people at this point in time we can guarantee will be on the
Right.
board is
Steve and
John and
Yeah.
Steve. So one of the two of them
Yeah.
would need to be.
I know.
Sorry, volunteering, Steve?
Sounds like I better do it.
Well, you tried to do it the first year you're on the board, because you didn't know where you were going.
It's good.
It's a good experience. It's a learning experience.
So do we make a nomination or do you just?
We just need to have somebody say they'll do it and.
Okay,
I'll
oh,
do
you
it.
just want me, he'll do it.
Okay,
You'll do it,
volunteer.
you're elected.
Voluntold.
Yeah.
Good job.
You don't sound like.
Thank you. Okay. 2021-22 board goals are cleaned up and brought back to us by the board secretary. Have a motion to approve those.
I'm going to. I move that we approve the 2021 and 22 board goals.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the 21-22 board goals. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye.
Now, we've talked about that before because now we're doing it now, but
It really
the
should.
three of us could not be on the board in
Yeah.
2 months. And
We could have tabled it till
can we,
November.
I mean, like maybe the next people that come in that you would say, hey, let's do it in December.
But like you said, it's gonna take the next board 3 to 4 months.
To get the hang of things. 3 to 4
You
months.
know what they're,
Well, just, yeah. you just-
3 years, isn't it?
4 years.
Yeah. That's
Just getting the hang of things.
I don't know what the right time is.
I don't
So
either.
Maybe you move it to the spring instead of the fall. I
Something.
don't.
It just seems silly for us to set board goals for,
Yeah.
you know, at least 2 people are gonna be coming in on this, so, but they're good goals.
Okay,
Okay.
last thing on our new business is board policy reviews for board policy 800 through 802.6. Has to do with building sites, surveys, responsibility of the board and the superintendent and consultants, and are there anything that
I
you
didn't see any,
changed?
I didn't see any changes, no.
So there are no real changes?
No.
So do I have a motion to approve the review of policies 800 through 802.6?
So this is just the first reading, correct?
No, reviews are just
This
a
is
one
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the review of 800 to 802.6.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the board policy review of policies 800 through 802.6. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Denhart,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye.
The one thing I want to do is thank everybody right here. The year has gotten off to what I would consider to be a very good start. Thanks to all the work of everybody. You know, it's a juggling act and all that stuff, and everybody's done a great job because again, there has been a lot of hiccups and different things that people have worked through and really appreciate the work that everybody's done. So thank you. Biggest thing I want to discuss, we're really working hard right now to try to have some adult education classes in the Career Academy to try to get people in there and get exposed to, see what we have and all that. It is a challenge because not everybody wants to take classes for whatever reason. We've had one class, our illustrious Mr. Gordon, had tailgating 101. I took the class, it was very good. Shared pimento cheese spread from the Masters with us. Then he made a breakfast sausage egg scramble, smoked bologna, and then the original made right sandwich from Taylor's in Marshalltown. So again, it was a very good class, good opportunity here. And another week we have tailgating 102 that we've got gentlemen from.
Prerequisite.
No prerequisite. Gentleman from Fairway. It's gonna, yes, it's gonna be teaching about barbecue rubs and different things of that nature. Other thing we've got going on Monday night, there've been some. We had done this previously before my time, but opened up the construction shop for people to come in and use the equipment. So we've got a class Monday night. We have 8 people signed up for that our instructors will take the people that are signed up through how to use specific tools and safety and all those things. And then we will look at opening it up one night a month for those people and just those alone. It isn't for anybody because they had to have been certified on those tools and everything to come in and use that equipment. Like I said, that's something that was previously done. And we're gonna have other classes as well moving forward. Just the goal is to get adults in there to see, see what the opportunities are, what's available, so they, know what's going on in there and hopefully can encourage their children and grandchildren to take advantage of those things. So I'm really excited about that moving forward. So, but we do have that going.
So like the shop equipment and the monthly usage, are we looking at setting a price point for cost for those people to use the equipment? Because there's gonna be some usage or.
I think right now we're looking at, it's a $25 for the class upfront, but no, there's no monthly, that's.
Well, maybe something we have to look at as we go along. I know former instructor was concerned about somebody's gonna bring a little barn board in and ruin the planer because it's got nails in it that he wants to smooth up. But so.
Obviously,
And
that's
that's
one of the things we need to monitor.
Yeah, I mean, so if when that's in use, then there's gonna be an instructor there, or will that be required for after the first meeting or?
That's a conversation we'll have at the first meeting. I mean, obviously there'll be adult supervision.
The question that came up was viability. Concerns about that.
Again, that becomes the goal once someone proves that they can use the equipment, they're kind of certified on it. They're gonna have to do waivers and that kind of stuff.
Sure. I think it's a great idea. I think we need to get people in there and promote it as much as we can.
My daughter and I are taking that woodworking class and we are really excited to get going and learn how to use those big old saws.
So the two of you and Roger and Dave and I from my family. So
There's five.
There's five of us.
It'll be a fun time.
We also have, there's I can't think of the name of the organization. There's a teacher technology group in the state that's going to be using the Career Academy about 4 times throughout the year to offer technology classes for teachers in the western half of the state. But those will be on Saturdays.
And the greenhouse appears to be under construction.
Yeah, construction class is building the greenhouse.
And I heard something yesterday about some potential donations. Like a 4-year commitment of significant amount of money to help pay for that. I think Ray will probably talk about that tomorrow.
That's
Okay.
all I have.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Very good.
Raylan's gonna talk about that on Monday.